Well, everyone, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by I Love Growing Marijuana, because you know it's time for you to grow that frosty Gorilla Glue. Click on the link in the show notes to get you over to ilovegrowingmarijuana.com so they know that we sent you, and order yourself some nice Gorilla Glue seeds. Also, you know that Delta Leaf Labs has that DNA sex testing kit that you need. You know, the one that tells you whether that seedling is going to be a male or a female plant. But did you realize that that same test is going to tell you whether that female has the potential of producing more THC or CBD? Yeah, no, it's true. So go over to deltaleaflabs.com, order your plant DNA sex testing kit, and at checkout, use promo code IMGS10 to get 10% off of that order. And one last thing I want to talk about is Green Flower Media. Now, if you don't know who they are, go over to green-flower.com to check them out. Now, I would call them a cannabis education company because their website has just that, a lot of really good cannabis educational content. Some of it's free and some of it you have to pay for, but that's all right. Now, me personally, I went over there and learned a different way to make canna butter from Jeff, the 420 chef. He has a really interesting way of preparing his bud before he puts it in the butter. But right now, Green Flower is offering a Cannabis Fundamental Certificate program. And what that does is that'll teach you the history of cannabis. It'll teach you about the endocannabinoid system. It's going to go into the biology and the botany of cannabis. It's also going to teach you about cannabinoids and terpenes and how they interact with each other and how they interact with us. So go over to green-flower.com, sign up for the Cannabis Fundamental Certificate program, and at checkout, you can use promo code GFCD015 to get 15% off. Now, don't wait too long because enrollment ends February 1st. All right, now let's get started with the show. Brothers and sisters, this is the In My Grow Show, the podcast dedicated to taking the mystery out of cannabis. I'm your host, Alex, and I want to thank you for joining me on episode number 48. Now, as you can tell, I don't completely sound like myself. I'm still getting over the flu. I lost my voice a couple of days ago. Just yesterday, I barely started to sound kind of human, but I appreciate you putting up with my raspy self. Alright, so later on, I'm going to talk to Sean McCormick, who's the host of the Cheap Home Grow podcast. He gets on the phone with me for a little while. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about the two-spotted spider mite. That's going to be our pest of the week today. But before that, I want to talk about a headline that I read. I found it over there at CNN.com. And the article is written by Kevin Flower and Mira Sentinelgram. Man, I know I messed that up. Sentinelgram, I think. Sorry, Mira. But the headline reads, odds of dying from accidental opioid overdose in the U.S. surpasses those of dying in a car accident. Yeah, get that. We have a better chance now of dying of an accidental opioid overdose than in dying in a car accident. So our chances of an accidental overdose are 1 in 96. And our chances in the U.S. of dying in a car accident are 1 in 103. That's crazy. I guess there's two ways of looking at that. Opioids are more dangerous, or cars are a lot safer now. But I think opioids are just more fucking dangerous now. I mean, what do you think? Go read the article. I'll put the link in the show notes. Alright, now that messed up headline's out of the way, I want to talk about the strain of the week. And I'm going to give it up to the Sunday Driver. That is Sunday like the dessert. And she is a cross between the Fruity Pebbles and the Grape Pie, and is an indica dominant hybrid. And it wasn't too bad as an indica. I didn't mind it too much. It wasn't really heavy. It didn't put me in the couch, make me feel sleepy or anything. It did help kind of focus my energy, or at least it helped focus my attention, is what it helped me do. Because I had a scattered list of 50 things I had to take care of right before I smoked a bowl of it. And right afterwards, I was like, okay, prioritize. This is what you need to do. It was really good for that. So I want to give a shout out to my buddy Luis for handing me a little nug the other day of the Sunday Driver. If you see it, grab it, especially if you like indicas. Alright, now for a couple of local reminders. The 805 Cannabis Society is having the quarterly cannabis workshop and networking event on January 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. Tickets are $15. And drinks and appetizers are included. It will be at the Impact Hub, the State Street location. And we're going to hear from land use attorney Amy Steinfeld, as well as branding and intellectual property attorney Dan Ackerman. And we're also going to hear from Elijah Spina from Delta Leaf Labs. You can go over to tiny.cc/canna, that is CANNA, to get your tickets. And that's something I actually need to do. I haven't bought my ticket yet. I'm probably going to do that right after I get off of this microphone. Next, don't forget that the Santa Barbara County Planning Commission is having a Hoop House Ordinance meeting, and that's going to be in Santa Maria on Wednesday, January 30th at 9 a.m. at the Betaravia Government Center, 511 Lakeside Parkway. Once again, there is a link in the show notes for that for more details. Alright, now I want to talk about the two-spotted spider mite. Okay, if you go over to inmygrow.com and type in the little search window, the two-spotted spider mite and the cannabis plant, okay, an article is going to pop up that I wrote. And I'm basically going to be reading off of that. Now, I'm not going to read every bullet point on there, because if I did that, it would take me an hour to read it to you all. And I don't think that would be a really good thing for my voice. So I'm going to just hit the really big highlights. Now, I know I've spoken about the spider mite in the past. Today, I just want to share more details about what I found out about them. So the two-spotted spider mite is probably going to be one of the most common pests that you're going to encounter as a cannabis grower. And if they're left unchallenged in your garden, they can do devastating things to your crop. So my suggestion is, instead of trying to do battle and trying to fight out an infestation, put in place an integrated pest management program that works for your growing condition. You know, indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, grow cabinet. Have a plan that's going to work for you. A good place to start is to make sure that our grow area is clean, so that pests don't have any place really to hide or to feel comfortable. So the Latin name for the two-spotted spider mite is the Tetronychus certici, and it's considered to be a general feeder, which means that it likes a whole bunch of different kinds of plants. Fruit plants, fruit trees, flowers, cannabis, shrubs, certain grasses. It's also known as the red spider mite or the greenhouse spider mite. And it gets its name because it typically has two spots on it, usually one on each side just behind the eyes. Now the adults and the nymphs both have 4 pairs of legs. That's why they're considered arachnids. And they usually have a yellow or greenish color to them. And they're also going to have the little hairy spines on their body. The adult males are going to be smaller than the female, and their bodies are going to be a little more pointed. The females, obviously, they're going to be a little bigger, and their body's going to be a little more oval shaped. One of the crazy things about the female, because there are quite a few of them, but one of them is that after a single mating, she's going to be fertilized for life. And she's going to lay about 2 to 6 eggs a day on the underside of the leaves. And in her lifespan, she's going to lay down about 100 of those eggs. And it's going to break down like this. 75% of those eggs are going to turn out to be female, and 25% of those eggs are going to be male. Now remember that, because that detail is going to be important later. When the larvae hatch out of those eggs, they're going to look exactly like the parents, except they're going to be a little translucent until they start feeding. Then they get that classic kind of yellow-greenish color. But the larvae are going to have 3 sets of legs, not 4. So they're only going to have 6 legs, not 8. And depending on the weather, because they do like hot, dry climates, we could have complete full-grown spider mites every 7 to 20 days. Okay, now this next bit about them. This is how you know that the spider mites are made to test the grower. This is how I knew when I read this, because I just learned this. I didn't know this. When the temperatures drop outdoors, the two-spotted spider mite adult female will change to an orange color and overwinter in places like underneath bark scales or ground cover around the base of plants and trees. Most other species of spider mites overwinter as eggs on the host plants. Only the females are known to overwinter. As temperatures increase, the the female emerges and starts to feed, and she loses the orange color and again turns back into the classic greenish yellow. Now those overwintering females are going to lay on average 39 eggs in their lifetime, which is going to last about 23 days, which is a lot less than their summer-born sisters, because they usually live about 30 days. And like I said earlier, they'll usually put down about 100 eggs in their lifetime. Okay, but let's go back a little bit, because I needed to wrap my head around what this little female does. She will overwinter or hibernate underneath some bark scales, come out in the springtime, lay eggs, about 40 of them, which if we remember, about 75% of those are going to be female. Okay, which means about 30 of them are going to be female, the other 10 are going to be male because it's the 25%, right? That is a crazy thing that nature designed right there just to mess with us. The female T-spotted spider mite. Alright, now let's talk a little bit about the environment that they like. Like I said, they like the warm summer months that have low humidity. They really start to thrive when it gets about 70, 80 degrees. The higher the temperature gets, the faster they reproduce, it seems. Like I said earlier, they like a whole bunch of different plants. Grasses, fruit trees, house plants, vegetables. Now the mites in the eggs, they're kind of hard to see with the naked eye. You know, you might need some magnification to really take a good look at them. If you don't have anything, here's what you can do. Get a white sheet of paper, put it underneath a leaf, and sharply tap that leaf over the white sheet of paper. Some of those spider mites are going to fall down, and you'll be able to see them because they're going to look like tiny moving specks. Now, as far as what damage looks like from the spider mite, it's going to look a lot like whitefly damage. Okay, it's going to leave a little white speck, a little dead spot on the leaf. And that's because they both feed in a very similar way. They suck the juice out of the leaf. But if you remember, you can shake the plant a little bit. And if you see little flies fluttering out, then that's whiteflies. If you don't see any flies fluttering out, then it may be spider mites. Another sign of the spider mite is that it's going to leave this fine little silky webbing across the leaves. And when it gets bad enough, when you've got enough of those little spider mites going, because they really do love to lay down spider webs, is when it gets bad enough, your buds and your leaves are going to have this little cobweb on there, and they're just going to be all over the place. And it is not pretty. Your heart sinks, you feel it in your guts, or at least I did. It sucks. Now, as always, there's different ways to fight them. You know, you can go biological as far as finding some live predators, or you can do a chemical attack. Let's start with the biologicals. Predator mites are going to be pretty effective against the pest mite, because the pests can't build a resistance against being eaten, basically. But you have to remember, if you're going to use biologicals, they're not going to be an immediate control for the problem. It's going to take them a little while to get established and really get going. So think about your plan of action as soon as you see any kind of symptoms of a pest. Other insects that are good predators is the six-spotted thrip. Some general predators are ladybugs and lacewings. Now, the predator mite that I'm able to get locally at Rincon Vitova, because it's literally 2 miles away from my house, I'm really lucky, is the Phytocilius persimilis. I think I got that right. And this bug specializes in killing web-spinning mites, like the carmine red, the two-spotted, and the Pacific mite. And they're most effective when temperatures are between 59 and 86 degrees Fahrenheit, and about 60% humidity. Now, the persimilis can reproduce pretty fast, but once again, it is going to take it a little while to get started. And Rincon Vitova suggests treating sudden hot spots by releasing 1 mite per 100 spider mites for control within a week. Now, one interesting thing that I did learn while I was putting this together is how to use bean plants. Apparently, bean plants attract spider mites so good that they will actually help attract away those mites from infected plants. I found a video of some research that was done in Australia, and they were using bean plants to study the two-spotted spider mite. And it shows the kind of bean that they use and how they use the bean plant. It was really interesting. I think you should take a look at it. I'm going to try it myself and see how that works out. Now, something you could try to help make it more uncomfortable for spider mites is misting your plants every once in a while, a couple of times a week. As long as you're not fighting any kind of mold. Okay, if you're fighting any kind of mold, don't mist your plants. Okay, don't do it, because you're just going to encourage more mold. But if you're not, try that. Alright, now let's move along to chemical attacks. As always, a quick disclaimer: whenever you're using any kind of chemical, be safe, protect yourself. Eyes, nose, mouth, skin. And remember that a lot of miticides and insecticides are considered to be broad spectrum killers, which means that they don't discriminate. They will kill both pest and predator. Okay, so think about that before you use any kind of chemical. Now, Azamax is a good miticide. You're going to have to apply that every 6 to 10 days. Neem oil is also a good thing to use against the spider mite because it does break down the cuticle or the outer waxy layer of the insect. It doesn't allow them to molt and they dry up and die. Once again, pyrethrum is also a really good one. It's made from a certain kind of chrysanthemums, and they work by exciting the nervous system of insects that touch it or eat it. This quickly leads to paralysis and ultimately their death. It is often mixed with other chemicals to increase their effectiveness. And those are all the highlights of the article that I put together called Two-Spotted Spider Mite and the Cannabis Plant. And you can go over to inmygrow.com and check out the full text. There's a lot more details about it. Like I said, these are just some of the details I thought were most important to mention on the show. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take a short break. I'm going to put on some music, and then I'm going to have that conversation that I recorded with Shane McCormick. He is the host of the Cheap Home Grow podcast, and we talked about Rhode Island's medical marijuana law and some of the changes that may be coming his way. We also talked a little bit about space buckets and a couple other things. So hang tight for that conversation. I'll put it up in just one moment. Everyone, I'm excited to have with me on the phone today Shane McCormick. He is the host of the Cheap Home Grow podcast. Shane, brother, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I really do appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad we could make this happen. We've been talking for a little while. I think, we became Instagram friends back in the summer, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it's been a while. I think we connected on Instagram, I would say maybe around 6 or 7 months back, in that range.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. So you're out in Rhode Island, right?
I am indeed. I am out in Rhode Island right now. It is cold, dark, windy.
Oh, yeah. You guys are getting hit by that massive snowstorm.
Right, exactly, man. Not fun, but it I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about what kind of cannabis laws you got out in Rhode Island. You guys have medical, and it's decriminalized also? Is that it?
Right. Well, out here it is medical is legal, and recreational it's not legal. If you want to smoke or grow out here, you would have to have a medical license. And it's funny that you asked me that, because the governor, Gina Raimondo, she just literally 2 or 3 days ago, she proposed that cannabis be legal on a recreational level in Rhode Island. However, she wants to peel back the use of home grow, meaning that if you grow your own, you're not allowed to do that anymore, which is, pretty crappy in my opinion.
So she's proposing you're allowed to have it recreationally, but only if somebody else grows it for you. You can't grow it on your own.
Right. Well, I mean, right now, as it stands right now, in order to either grow or to smoke, you need a license from the state of Rhode Island, which is fine. I with that.
You were talking about how the governor's proposing, or the laws are now that you can be a patient and grow.
Right. I mean, right now, if you want to grow, now I'm talking about Rhode Island. I'm not talking about Massachusetts. Right now in Rhode Island, right, if you want to grow or if you want to smoke, you need a license, which means that you have to get you have to get the approval from the state of Rhode Island. They do a BCI check on you. They make sure you're not a criminal, and then once you pass all of those tests, at that point, they give you a medical marijuana card, and you could grow, you can go into a dispensary and buy if you want to. However, as I was saying, Gina Raimondo, the current governor of Rhode Island, she wants to make it recreational, legal, but she wants to roll back the ability for people to grow their own as of right now.
Okay, so now does that mean that even patients couldn't grow their own?
Well, I mean, that's the question. That's a really good question. I don't know. She proposed it in her 2019-2020 budget. Now, the specifics of that budget, I'm not entirely sure. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see until what comes of it. And I don't know. We're kind of in a holding pattern, and now, to be honest with you, it pretty much sucks, because if it gets passed, now we can't grow. Which is silly, because people. I know people that have been growing for for nearly, or in some cases, over a decade, and they haven't had a problem. It's no big deal. But now with this proposal, it seeks to unfortunately change that.
Yeah, that seems like a ridiculous thing to even want to be a part of, especially if you're pro cannabis, man.
Right, exactly. Exactly. To be perfectly honest with you, I really don't support it, because, as you know, I have a podcast called Cheap Home Grow, and you should grow your own at home, but if you can't do that, then what the hell good is it?
That's part of the love, man, is to grow it eventually, and even if you don't want to, at least you have the right to. At least.
Exactly. It's a friggin' plant, for Christ's sakes.
Wow, that's a trip, man. That's a trip. Hey, so I want to take you back a bit. You said that when you apply for your medical card, they do a background check on you?
Yes, they do. Yeah, they do a BCI check on you. Yes.
So what is it in your background that would let you not get a medical card in cannabis? I'm just curious.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I believe the main one is if you are a criminal. If you are a criminal, you're not going to get your medical marijuana. You're not allowed to be a patient if you're a criminal. Wow. Right. Well, yeah. I don't. Yeah. In terms of patient, yeah. I guess that's. Yeah. I don't. I'm not a lawyer. Okay.
Sure.
I just want to make that clear. I don't know the law in and out, but yeah. You bring up a good point. If you are a criminal, if you need it in a medicinal way, but if you are a criminal, then perhaps you cannot be a patient.
Yeah.
So yeah,
wow, that's an interesting read on it, though. Hey, so you're a patient, but Rhode Island also allows caregivers, right?
Right, exactly. In Rhode Island, yes, if you want to grow, you have to be a caregiver, which again means you have to register with the state, and pretty much the same rules apply. They do a BCI check on you. They make sure they make sure you are not a criminal, and once you pass the background check, you get the notification from the state, and now you can grow.
Well, at least they allow caregivers also, man.
Right. Yeah. Well, they allow caregivers for now, but I don't know. That can change.
Yeah, it sounds like it may, especially with your governor. You got to keep an eye on her, man.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy.
So how are the dispensary prices out there, man? Because I know out here in California, dispensary prices are just way higher than what the black or the gray market is. And I'm just wondering if that's the same thing out there. I don't operate in the gray or the black market. That's not my, but in terms of prices, yeah, they're pretty expensive out here. That's why
I mean, that's why I know a lot of people that grow, that grow their own, and they don't want to pay ridiculous prices for their for their cannabis, but I mean, really, I mean, even beyond that, they want to know what they're putting into their cannabis, because when you go to a dispensary, I mean, yeah, I mean, you know the bud tender and what have you, but I mean, you really don't know where it's coming from, right? So, that's why there was this trend, or is this trend, to grow your own. But as I mentioned, I mean, that might be a little bit up in the air, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens.
No, I mean, it's a good point, because that's really the only way you're going to know the inputs. How really good is it is either you grow it yourself or the grower personally.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it's all about, really. And now, in terms of prices, yeah, man. I mean, they can get pretty expensive. I mean, I haven't checked the prices in quite some time. But well, I mean, I'll tell you what. I mean, let me ask you. I mean, how much are the prices out there in California?
For an eighth in a dispensary, you're looking at, $55, $75.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they're around the same dollar amount here. Maybe, maybe like 50 to say 75. Maybe on the high end, like the super high end, maybe around $90. But I mean, that's for bud. That's really
the top shelf.
Right.
What they consider top shelf, anyways. Yeah.
Right. Exactly, man. So I guess it depends on where you go.
Yeah, that's true too, man.
And actually, as of right now, there are only 3 dispensaries in Rhode Island. Now, again, under Gina Raimondo's proposal, 3 would turn into 9. So we would get 6 more dispensaries in the state of Rhode Island. But, as of right now, as of the time of this recording, we currently only have 3.
So if she gets her way, you get 6 more places where you can spend your money, but you can't grow anything.
Right. Yeah.
That's very corporate of her. That's nice of her.
Right. Exactly. So, but I mean, listen, I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see how it plays out.
Is there any way to get involved? I mean, is there like a campaign to not, have this happen, or at least steer in a different direction?
I don't know of any campaigns. I mean, you can visit Normal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right, NORML. Actually, I don't know if you know this, but I interviewed the founder of Normal, Keith Strupp. Maybe at the beginning of the summer last year.
No way.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Wow, good for you, man.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting conversation.
I gotta go back and find that. It's one of your first ones, you say?
Yeah, well, it's not the first one, but it's believe
one
it or
of the
not,
earlier ones.
Right, exactly. It's one of my earlier shows.
Yeah.
Right. It was when my podcast was quite new, and I didn't really know what the hell I was doing. I mean, not that I do now, but I think now I'm a little bit better versed in, well, I guess in running a podcast. So yeah, man, go out there and check it out.
Yeah, I will. Hey, so on that same conversation about being new to it, when you were about to get on the phone with them, did you get nervous?
One podcast. Did I get nervous? Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I used to write down a bunch of questions, right? And I would just ask these questions pretty much verbatim. But now, prior to your show, I do have certain questions that I want to ask. I do have certain points that I want to, try and make.
Yeah.
But, I don't really ask, I guess you can say I don't ask questions verbatim anymore, because it just kind of comes across, in my opinion, it comes across as a little odd. There's I like to.
Well, it comes
I
across
like
rehearsed.
right, exactly,
Because
right.
yeah, that's what I do. Because I'll outline it. I'll
Hmm.
just outline this. All right, these are kind of the 8 points I want to hit. Because really, what I'm trying to avoid, at least early on, was just using the word a lot.
Right.
It just sounds like I'm searching for my words. And I was like, no, okay, it's all right. So I got to write everything down. I was like, all right. So I got a little better grasp on it. I think I can,
Hmm.
handle it.
Exactly, man. And I do say a lot myself. I do have a slight stutter, which doesn't help, but I have a fairly decent job at getting that out of my podcast. Sometimes it's pretty hard, but sometimes it can be fairly easy depending on, I guess, how long it is in between the actual stutter itself. But hey man, it is what it is, and I just have to kind of fight through it. Why not, right?
No, you do a great job, man. So
Thank you,
I was
man.
listening back on one of your episodes, and
Mhm.
you started to take part in a grow competition.
Right. Yes. Yes. I started to take part in the New Year or in the New Year's grow competition for cocoa for Cannabis.com. That is Dr. MJ Coco. He's been on my show numerous times. I'm actually releasing a show this Tuesday with him and myself. We talk about germination and transplanting primarily. The challenge is just basically growing your own, and we get to talk about what we are growing, how we're doing it. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are growing their own in soil, a lot of people growing in cocoa core, in hydro. There's a whole different assortment of people and growing in different growing in different media types, and we're just all one big happy family, and learning from one another, and we're going to see how it we're going to see how it I guess how it pretty much plays out. Why not, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious. Did you guys get together and choose a certain variety that you guys are all going to grow, or just everyone's going to grow what they want to grow and see how that turns out?
Right. Well, part of the competition was everybody was going to grow photoperiods. However, I opted to choose to grow autoflowers. Now, I did that because I'm growing in my friend's grow chamber, and he's like, "Hey, listen, can you just grow these out for the competition?" And I said, "Sure." And I know the owner of the site, who is Dr. MJ Coco, and he's like, "Yeah, sure, man, absolutely." So that's what I'm doing. I'm growing. Well, actually, what am I growing? I'm growing.
Yeah, what are you growing?
I should know off the top of my head, right? Gray beard seeds, Big Bomb Auto.
Big Bomb Auto.
Right.
So are you actually growing it in a space bucket?
My space bucket. It is. It's funny that you mentioned that, right? I wanted to go into work tomorrow to work on my space bucket, but since we're getting this massive snowstorm, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to work on my space bucket. So as of right now of this recording, I do not have my space bucket built. I plan on doing that. Well, I planned on doing that tomorrow, but I can't do that. But I'll do that this upcoming week at some point. If not this week, then probably next Sunday.
Yeah, I saw the posting you put up a little while ago about all the components you had already, together and ready for it. I'm just curious on how that's, because I've never built one. I've seen them built, and I used to build something very similar years ago, but I used to use a metal trash can, like a brand new one, and just paint it white on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just curious about that, how that space bucket was turned out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in a sense it's going well. I have all the tools, but I got to actually do it. And I mean, it's been, to be honest with you, I mean, I guess I'm making excuses But we had Christmas, we had New Year's. Now I'm getting a major snowstorm. I mean, I haven't exactly had a lot of time to just sit down and build something, but I will be doing that soon. I will update everybody in the process. I'll put it on my Instagram, on my Twitter account, and I'll probably make a podcast about it as well. So yeah, I guess we'll see how that goes. I mean, I've never done it before. I've watched quite a bit of YouTube videos on the process, and actually I interviewed a gentleman who builds space buckets, and that show will be coming out fairly soon. So and it's funny because I wanted to talk to him prior to actually building my space bucket, because he's been doing it for forever. He can be found on Instagram. I mean, I know this is a plug, but he can be found on Instagram at mostlysafe8. That's MOSTLYSAFEE, and then 8. He's the guy that I talked to. He's the guy that I kind of picked his brain. And like I said, I wanted to do that prior to building mine, so that way there I kind of know what I'm doing, even though I probably screw it up. But yeah, I mean, when it gets built, or when I'm in the process of building the space bucket, I will certainly let everybody know.
All right, so just so for those people who don't know what it is, in space bucket, it's basically like a little grow area, basically built out of 5-gallon buckets, like 4 or 5 of them stacked on top of each other.
Pretty much, yeah. You have either 2 to 5-gallon buckets, right? And you usually have like an 8.5-foot clamp. You have an LED light, usually like 100-watt maybe. What you need are 2 computer fans. You need either Mylar or foil tape for to get it in a reflective way.
Right.
On the inside, you need a power strip, duct tape, a box cutter, and of course you need a timer as well. And it also helps to have a carbon filter too. So, I mean.
It sounds like a wild thing to see. Yeah, absolutely. Keep us posted, man, because I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, well, you and me both. And,
Nah, you got this. Come on. You just need time. Like the song says, you just need time.
Right, yeah. I guess I guess we'll see how it goes. I'm a fairly handy guy, but, building a space bucket is, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. I mean, and really it's funny because what I'm most concerned about with the space bucket, right? It's the mixing of electricity, right? Because you have 2 computer fans there that you have to hook up.
Right.
And water. And water, because you have to water your plant,
Right.
I just want to make sure that I'm not doing anything stupid, and I don't.
That you're not going to cause a fire, first of all.
Right. Exactly. So yeah. So we shall see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like I said, man, just keep us posted.
Yeah, I certainly will.
Hey, Shane. So, real quick, man, what drove you to want to start a podcast?
Well, it's funny. I actually just released my latest episode, and I kind of answered this question, or I guess like by myself, right? I mean, what drove me to start my podcast was pretty simple, right? I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I am not the best grower in the world. I am not. But here's the thing. I mean, over the years, right? I mean, I've been on online forums. I've searched on YouTube. I've watched a million videos. And I have learned a lot from doing that, a pretty good deal. But I figured, let me make my education a little bit more personal about growing my own. Well, how do I do that? Let me see. Let me go on Instagram and Twitter, but really primarily Instagram, and let me talk and let me converse with other growers that are, quite frankly, a lot more intelligent than me about growing. And, if I can connect with them, then I can become a better grower. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I mean, that's a good idea, right? But then I kind of went one step further, and I'm like, that's a good idea, but let me put this in podcast format. And I've been doing that, and my approach, I guess, was pretty simple. Like if I can reach one person, if I can convince, or maybe not convince, but if I can help one person grow better because they listen to a particular show, or they listen to a specific question that I asked somebody about growing, then if I made that person a better grower, then really I've done my job. So I figured I'd put my education online, and if I can help somebody else, then all the better.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm glad you're out there in the podcast space, man. We need all the positive cannabis voices we can, man, because there's a lot of anti-cannabis voices out there.
Absolutely. And and it's unfortunate. I mean, all it is, it's a plant, right? And I've mentioned this in a few of my I guess my Instagram posts. It's a plant. All it is, it's a plant, and it's one of the least studied plants on planet Earth. And if you let mankind, if you let American technology and stick-to-itiveness, and if you let the American spirit unleash on cannabis, I think you'll find great things, or I think great things will be discovered about cannabis in the years and decades to come.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I mean, just look at how much we've learned and the amount of research that's been done in Israel. I mean, those people are just doing a whole bunch of research. And I mean, not to take anything away from Israel, but they're a much smaller country.
In Israel you have what?
And if we just get over this really uptight attitude that we have, or and just let us really research it with human studies. There's a whole bunch of animal studies. We know how to get a rat high. We know what it'll do on a dog. There's still human studies that we need.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I believe the the University of Mississippi is the only place where a individual, or maybe not, I guess a individual can legally study cannabis, and that's been the case, for, I think,
for a long time since Prohibition started. I think Mississippi's been the only college that has been able to study cannabis.
Right, exactly. For a fairly long time, but it's like anything else. I mean, we need more than one school to help in the study of cannabis. We need, every school, and everybody that wants to study the plant should. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. If you're Joe Schmo down the street, and if you want to study the plant, then by all means, that's what you should be allowed to do.
Yeah, agreed, man. Agreed. Well, hey, Shane, I got one more question for you.
Sure.
And it comes from Instagram.
Alrighty.
A certain follower, his name is Slapshot Slim, and he wants to know what you think about why his plants stretch when he flips the lights to flowering. So, I mean, as far as I know, plants stretch for a few different reasons. There's either too much heat, not enough light. A lot of times it's genetic, because I know some really lanky sativas. And I read that sometimes, some plants will just stretch just to make room for the buds. And
that's true.
The only way really to, like, and he's also wondering if there's anything that can be done to make it less of a stretch. The only thing I can think of to lessen a stretch is to top it. What I would do is I'd top them 3 to 5 inches on top. Sure. That apical stem, that main stem that runs from the top to the bottom. and then that'll make the plant grow more bushier than taller.
Right.
You know, that'll send a signal to the bottom branches that they need a new apical branch.
Right.
And everyone's trying to be that branch.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think, I think your advice there is pretty sound. If he was growing autoflower, then you typically wouldn't, as far as I know, you typically wouldn't top a autoflower. So in a situation like that, and again, I don't know what, he's growing there.
That's true too. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, so speaking of autoflowers, I don't grow many autoflowers. Are you familiar with them?
I'm growing my first autoflower right now in my grow chamber. And it's a different beast. It really is. It's a different set of rules. It's a different approach.
So what are the two big differences that you've noticed?
Well, I mean, automatics come from, I guess they come from like Siberia, right? So they're used to, right? They're used to the frigid cold. And right here in Rhode Island, it's freezing out. And not my grow chamber, but like my grow space outside of the chamber, it can get pretty cold. And my grow chamber itself, it can get down to like high 50s, low 60s, which I guess for regular cannabis, I mean, that's pretty bad. I mean,
so it's not bad, but it's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's not too bad, but I mean, it can get cold here. I'm telling you, man, it's freezing out.
I'm sure it can, man. I'm sure you got snow past your nipples,
Right, exactly. It sucks. Or well, it's gonna suck in like 12 hours or so. But yeah, I mean, they're, I mean, I'm in my 14th day maybe, or something along those lines. It just seems to be so far a lot tougher, and things seem to be going a little bit more quicker than usual. I mean, I'm expecting, and maybe this is a little pie in the sky, I don't really know, but I'm expecting from seed to harvest 60 to 70 days. Now, Perhaps that's right. I mean, again, perhaps that's a bit optimistic, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see.
But yeah, so I was just curious on how you've been, what your experiences were with autos.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm not overly experienced with them, and plus the fact I'm growing in a new environment in my buddy's grow chamber. So, and listen, and I guess.
Now, when you say grow chamber, is that like a grow tent, a grow hut, a locker?
Yeah.
What do you?
No, it's not a tent. It's and I don't mean to like plug and what have you, but I'm growing in my buddy's grow chamber, which is the Green Goddess grow box. Anybody that is listening can go there and check it out. You can go to greengoddesssupply.com. Now, mind you, I have the prototype. I don't have the final product. From the last I heard, he's got a bunch of boxes and he's looking to sell them. So, so if anybody wants to go over there and check them out, please do so. So yeah, I'm growing in that in that environment right now.
So now that auto that you have in there, eventually you're gonna move that auto into the space bucket. That's the plan.
No, that's not.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. How's that gonna work?
No, Matt. No. I'm not gonna transplant that into the space bucket. No way. I'm gonna build a space bucket, and I'm gonna germinate seed, or the plan is to germinate in the space bucket, and I guess we'll see how that.
And just leave it alone.
Right. What I'm gonna do is this. Right. I am going to I guess compare like what I do in the grow chamber, how much I yield in the grow chamber and how much I yield in the space bucket, and I'm gonna do a split test, and I'm gonna compare them, and I'm gonna see what happens.
Right on. Yeah, that'll be fun to watch, man.
Exactly. It's gonna be, pretty interesting to say the least.
Well, Shane, I want to thank you for getting on the phone with me, brother.
Sure thing, man.
It was great talking to you, man. Is there anything you want to talk about that maybe we didn't cover that you want to share?
Well, let me see. I would like for you to come on to my podcast, and if that's something that you would like to do, I would love to have you on.
Absolutely, man. Let's do that. That'd be fun.
Perfect. We can shoot the breeze and talk about growing, and we can just basically take it away from there.
Hell yeah. So do me a favor. Tell everybody how they can find you. Tell everybody how they can find your show.
Oh, well, you can find me. You can find me a few ways, right? You can go to cheaphomegrow.com. You can find my show there. You can sign up for my email list. And also, I am on all of the big 3 social media websites. I'm on Facebook.com/cheaphomegrow. I'm on Twitter.com/cheaphomegrow and Instagram at cheaphomegrow. And I am most active on Twitter and Instagram. So I'm pretty easy to find. You can send me a DM. You can go to my website and send me a mail. You can, or I'll tell you what, you can go to SoundCloud.com/cheaphomegrow as well. So I'm a pretty accessible guy. So yeah, if anybody has any questions or I'll tell you what, if they want to come on my show and talk about growing, then feel free to reach out to me.
Right on, man. That's cool, Shane. Well, hey, do me a favor. Don't go anywhere. All right?
Sure.
Everybody else, I'm going to play a little bit of music, and I'll be right back. I always like talking to fellow growers and podcasters. Again, I want to thank Shane McCormick for taking the time to come on my show. You can find him at cheaphomegrow.com. Well, mi gente, my people, I've come to the end of my notes, which means we've come to the end of the show. If you've got any questions or comments about this episode, you can send me an email, that is inmygrow@gmail.com, or find me on Instagram at inmygrow. Now, don't forget to subscribe to the website and subscribe to the podcast, because that way you don't have to wait for social media alerts to tell you when new content and new episodes go up. Also, don't forget, if this podcast has educated you, entertained you, or even given you a little escape from the day, go over to patreon.com/inmygrowshow and donate to the show. If you don't want to donate, go over to inmygrow.com, click on the support the show tab, and order a t-shirt. Or even easier, click on the Amazon link in the show notes before you go shopping there. That'll let them know that we sent you and we get a commission. If you can't support the show financially, don't worry about it. I get it. But here's how you can help. Just tell 3 other people about the show. Really easy. All right, everyone. Well, I'm going to get on out of here. Next week, I'm going to have Dr. Jake Felice with me. Now, don't forget that I love you all very much. And remember to always grow, learn, and teach.